So we're working on video 2 of our series for Unit 4 on effectiveness. You should have previously watched video 1 for Gettysburg Address analysis, and now we'll be completing a rhetorical analysis guide. You do not actually have to fill out the guide, just take notes or listen so that you understand how to do it and then what to consider, because you will be responsible for writing the paragraph at the end of the rhetorical analysis guide. The part you will need to be doing is in your packet, and it looks like this. So this is the page that you would be working with. At the top you should have already marked the speech, and then at the bottom this is what you will complete after listening to video 2, is just the writing portion at the bottom of that page. So let's look at the rhetorical analysis guide. I've already gone ahead and put in the Gettysburg Address as our title, Abraham Lincoln as our author. So the first part that you look at is 1 through 3. And so you have claim, assertion, and data. Those are the 3 things you want to find first if you were to chunk the rhetorical analysis guide. So when you look at these 3 things, we find the claim or thesis would be that we must unite as a nation, and I chose to go with an implied claim here. An assertion, these men should not have died in vain. That's what he's talking about. He's giving the speech on the location where these men died. And then brave men, living and dead, that struggled here. That's his detail, or that's the data. So think of it as the main idea, the topic sentence, and then the evidence or the supporting detail. So then after that, you're going to look at the primary appeal. And as you look at the primary appeal, you're going to be considering all the things that you marked in video 1. So when you look at this, what do you have the most of? Do you see a lot of pathos? Do you see a lot of ethos? Or do you see a lot of logos? Well, we see pathos, ethos. 2 out of the 3 paragraphs are pathos. So given that information, we would probably go back to the primary appeal and we would write pathos. And then we need to be able to support that. It has to do really with the dedication and location. So his dedication to the topic and the location he chooses to give the speech, along with the diction, they all lean toward an emotional connection with his audience. They all lead towards an emotional connection with the audience. So those are the first 2 chunks of your rhetorical analysis guide. As we move on, we're going to look then where it says explain your 5 devices. You will always have 5 devices on these rhetorical analysis guides. They are the same ones that you are going to use next year as a junior, or very similar to them. So as we look at the third portion here, we're looking at our devices. I've gone ahead and chosen the devices and given the examples so that we can really focus on the area that's more important, which would be the idea of why it is persuasive. So when you look at, as you look at the first example, syntax, we is repeated frequently, and it's an anaphora, and it's written in the 3rd person. So we ask ourselves, why was this used, and how is it effectively persuading us is the key that we want to pay attention to. So using 3rd person kind of helps to include the audience. It unites the audience with the speaker. So it's uniting language. And prevents the listener from feeling isolated. So you're not summarizing what does it mean, you're actually telling why it's used and how it's persuasive. So the whys and the hows. For this number 6, tricolon, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow. These are all repeated in a tricolon fashion. So what's the purpose of a tricolon? You can always go back to your notes. One of the purposes of the tricolon is pacing. So we ask ourselves, how is this in persuading the audience? So this persuades. You can always start with that because it kind of takes you in the right direction. This persuades the audience by. That would probably be how you start every single one of these. So it creates a pacing and emphasizes meaning. And really, for each example, you're going to have a very similar reason or how that it is effective. It's going to be pretty true to not to the specific example, but to the device itself. Creates pacing and emphasizes meaning. It also allows it to be memorable. Then we move on to diction. When you discuss diction, you should always discuss connotation. So is this positive or negative? It's hello, it's honored, that would be positive. So you would say, whenever you discuss diction, this positive connotation persuades the audience. And the way that it persuades the audience is going to be, it helps them to understand the respectfulness. There's like a reverent tone. So by demonstrating respectfulness and then creating that respectful tone. So you can always take diction to connotation to tone. So as you go to the next side, or when you look at the other side of your RAG, you have two more examples that are required. I've chosen ascendanton, of the people, by the people, for the people. And I've chosen illusion, all men are created equal. So why is ascendanton persuasive? This persuades the audience because, again, always start with something similar. It leads you in the right direction. It prevents you from summarizing. Because it gives you emphasis. It provides emphasis and control over the pacing and the cadence. And again, leans towards that memorization. This is one of the most often quoted. It's obviously something you've heard before. So it persuades the audience by creating a pace and cadence that leads towards memorization. I'm just going to put mem for memorization since you guys aren't writing this down. The final one is illusion, and whenever you use illusion, this is persuasive because it helps create ethos. So it creates ethos, and you would go ahead and start with this persuades the audience by creating ethos, and that helps to build trust. And how does it create ethos? It demonstrates that Lincoln understands his American history. He's knowledgeable. So whenever you have ethos, you have knowledgeable on U.S. history. Therefore, increasing trust of his audience. So after that, then you're going to go ahead and look at the tone. You determine a tone, and a tone is not always a right or wrong answer. You can usually generate a tone, several different tones within a text. In this case, we went with reverent, which also means respectful, and then you identify why is this a respectful tone. He's working on his main claim. As we look to the front, we remember the claim is uniting the United States, bringing the North and the South together. He's bringing the North and the South together. And he's working pretty hard through language. So we're going to say uses language, diction, and that's where you can go back to lids, language, diction, and syntax to include his audience. So now, knowing all of these things that we've discussed in the RAG, in the Rhetorical Analysis Guide, you are now going to look at your next page in your packet. And in that page, you have a template that you're going to use and complete the template. We've given you some sentence prompts that will help you with this portion, with this number 11, and we want you to use those sentence prompts as you turn that in, and that will be one of your assignments for this unit.